This is WXXI's Connections. I'm Raquel Stephen, filling in for Evan Dawson. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and this hour we're going to talk about the prevalence of mental health issues among men. Men die by suicide at a rate higher than women, but the American Association of Medical Colleges point out that men are diagnosed with depression at far lower rates than women. Today we're going to talk about the importance of mental health, men being undiagnosed, and why they may not receive as much support for mental health issues as women. Our guest today provides safe spaces for men to openly talk about their struggles with mental health and other challenges. Today in studio with me, we have Brian Burrows. He's a board-certified psychiatric nurse practitioner and the founder of Right Diagnosis Psychiatry. Right? Okay,
yes,
long
that's
title.
Correct.
Long title. We're going to talk
Yes.
about this title because I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know what exactly a psychiatric nurse practitioner does. So we're going to get right to you. I also have in studio with me Alexis Burgess, right?
Yes.
Owner and operator of One Love, One Way, which offers support groups for men. Thank you for being in studio with us, Alexis.
Thank you for having me.
Just walking in, I have is it Wilbert? Wilbert Trey McCullough. He's one of the participants for Alexis's support groups. And I also have here with me Capita Shiamaru.
That's right.
I did that. I did that. I was waiting to do that. And I also recruited him from Alexis's support group, which I did attend last night. And to see a room full of men just venting and holding each other accountable and being vulnerable, that was very powerful to see. So I can't wait to discuss what brought you to do this event and how it's beneficial to the men who attend. But we're going to start with Brian here, right?
Yes.
Psychiatric nurse practitioner.
So
What is that?
So a psychiatric nurse practitioner is someone who has graduated with at least a master's degree and as a nurse practitioner. I specialize in mental health treatment. And by mental health treatment, I mean primarily managing medications for individuals with mental health disorders like depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, the typical mental health syndrome that individuals go through on a daily basis.
So I want to get your take on that since you are an expert, right? We could say that. Men die by suicide at a rate 4 times higher than women, and men are diagnosed with depression at rates far lower than women.
Yeah.
Why are men being, I want to say, overlooked when it comes to mental health issues?
Well, first we'll say that men die at a higher rate due to suicide attempts, primarily because they use more lethal means, such as guns. So women tend to overdose. Men are also more likely to attempt suicide by hanging as well. And then the second part of your question, men are diagnosed at a lower rate than women, primarily because they don't seek mental health treatment at a higher rate than women. Women are taught to express their emotions, while men are taught to suppress their emotions. And when men suppress their emotions, then they tend not to seek care and sometimes don't even recognize that they need mental health treatment.
But they also say that research has shown that in some cases, mental health providers may miss some of these psychological problems or misdiagnose them because of a gender bias. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that has to do with most providers or mental health clinicians are not men or, not of this, they don't have shared experiences. So, that's where kind of race comes into play here. So if they're, undiagnosed, then typically it's because they haven't sought mental health treatment.
Oh, and as a man, as a black man in this field,
Yeah.
right? Can you tell us how does that play a part in the way you see your patients?
In terms of, so believe it or not, I have very few African American patients or men as patients, and they tend to leave treatment earlier, before the treatment's completed.
And is this because why do you think that is? Is it because in denial or?
Primarily because they're being undertreated. They're being undertreated. There's not a relationship between men and primarily women in terms of shared experiences. So, men have a tendency to be less inclined to continue with the treatment.
And as far as the men that do show up, what do you see mostly as far as like diagnosis?
So, I need to clarify one thing.
Yes.
When individuals come to me, they're already generally at a high level of dysfunction. So, for example, we had a mental health forum, and after I sat back and thought about it, I have to adjust the way when I'm not in a clinical setting, how I discuss mental health to meet the needs of individuals who are not at the crisis point. So that's also a learning curve for me as well.
Okay, so can you break that down for me? So would you say that one more time for our listeners?
Okay, so typically when I'm speaking to individuals, they are already at a crisis point.
Right.
And they are, they're there to get medications. Medication management is the last step. So
Yes.
most individuals should generally start off with talk therapy.
Yeah.
All right. And then many times when their coping skills, that they're taught through talk therapy are not able to pull them out of their symptoms such as depression or anxiety, then they will oftentimes reluctantly come to see me at the behest of their talk therapist.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, the therapist is not unable to break through. And so they need to lower some of those symptoms in order to break through with dialogue with these individuals.
So medication is the last step.
Pretty much.
So when people come to you, do you
Yes. So I
try to deter them?
No, I
Okay.
don't try to deter them. So when they do come to me, I generally treat in my private practice anxiety and depression. So we kind of go through an evaluation, and then we determine if a medication is needed. Oftentimes, I will prescribe something antidepressant, which generally helps with both anxiety and depression.
And what got you into this field, Brian? We should have mentioned that earlier, but what got you into this field as a Black man doing this type of practice?
So, as a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I like to say that we live in obscurity because of the route that it takes to become a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So first of all, you have to get a bachelor's in nursing. And when you're obtaining your bachelor's in nursing, you haven't really thought about what direction you want to go in terms of the next level of being a nurse practitioner. So a nurse practitioner is able to basically do what a doctor does. They can prescribe medications. So a family nurse practitioner is a general practitioner, someone who treats hypertension, high cholesterol, things of that nature. So then we basically, you choose the profession, that the specialty that you would like to go in. So there's acute care nurse practitioners. There are midwives that are nurse practitioners. There are nurse anesthetists that essentially provide anesthesia. So after you graduate is when you typically start looking at, okay, do I want to go on and get an advanced degree? And at that point, you make a decision based on some of the things you've encountered while you're in nursing school. So for me, my breakthrough moment came while I was in clinical. And I heard this gentleman talking who I now know has delusional disorder, and he's talking normally. And then, he's like, and then they showed up. And I'm like, who showed up? The alien showed up, and they took me, it's kind of like, wow, the brain is a very powerful organ in the body. So that kind of piqued my interest. And then I kind of, made a decision, okay, I want to go into psychiatry.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So as far as like group therapy, right?
Yes.
Group session. What is your take on that?
So group therapy is excellent because, in a group setting, individuals tend to have what's called a catharsis, meaning an aha moment, because they are essentially grouped with individuals that they have kind of similarities with. You're going through the same thing I'm going through, right? And so then you can kind of, when you're in a group setting, then you kind of understand, oh, I'm not the only one suffering with this, right? This person's going through this, so I am not abnormal. I'm actually pretty normal. So groups can be very effective, especially for individuals who are struggling with, severe depression, severe PTSD, things of that nature.
So okay, I wanted to segue into, because I know this is what Alexis does with her groups. Is we meet once a month, right? The last Wednesday of each month.
Yes.
And let's talk about One Love, One Way and your therapeutic kickbacks and what got you started and what made you want to do these group sessions for men as a woman.
Right. So, One Love, One Way, transportation and support services. That's where I provide transportation services to families in the community, back and forth to the jails and to the prisons, so that they are able to stay in contact with family members who are incarcerated.
Yes.
So attached to that, I wanted to do something more to give them more support,
Yeah.
and that's where I came up with the therapeutic kickback, uplifting a black man.
Yeah.
And initially, it was for black men who were previously incarcerated. But as I started to do it, I started to realize that all black men need it. So I broadened the title of it. So I'm like, okay, all black men need it, if you've been incarcerated or not.
Yes.
I started it because, one, I have a little brother who has been back and forth into prison. And I just realized how it has changed him mentally. He was my best friend, and it put a wedge in between our relationship.
Yes.
Not only that, my daughter's father, it put a wedge in between our relationship when he went to jail and came home. He changed mentally. And then on top of that, I have a cousin that suffered from mental illness, and he ended up committing suicide. So all these layers of black men in my family, I just watched them deteriorate from a lot of mental health issues. And I was like, I want to do something about it. I didn't quite know what to do about it. And that's where I prayed and I fasted, and it was given to me to start the Therapeutic Kickback men's group. And I started back in July of 2022. And I've just been doing it ever since.
Wow. So it's almost
It'll be
3 years.
next
Your
month.
3-year anniversary is coming up.
Next
so you've been
month.
doing this for 3 years. But it seems like it just became so prevalent and in your face just recently, right? Because what are you doing differently?
I think in the beginning, I wasn't really a social media girl.
Okay.
So I just got on social media, what was it, March or April of 2022.
Oh, okay.
So I think because I became more comfortable with talking about it and not keeping it like a secret, and being more, what's the word I want to use? Being more just forward about it on social media, and I think the word started to get around. So to some people, it seems like, oh, she just started, but I've
been doing this.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while.
You were a late bloomer. Oh, because I
Very
was on
late.
social media when it was just college, when it was just for
Right.
college kids, right? It was
Yeah,
back in 2005, and you just started, and it's definitely picking up some steam here. And you do it, and I want to make this clear: you do it in a barber shop, right? This is like the pillar for black men. This is where black men go to gossip. Yes, I said the G word. They go to gossip. They go to vent. They go to let it all out. Was that strategic on your part to have this kickback in a barbershop?
Well, let me tell you. So it was definitely strategic on my part, but the way that God works is just so remarkable, because when I first mentioned it, when I first thought of it, the first person I talked to was a barber about it. And when I mentioned it to him, he was someone who had history of being incarcerated. So I kind of pitched this idea to him, like, I think I want to start a therapeutic kickback. What you think about that? Like, I want to start men's groups for men who've been previously incarcerated to help men like yourself and my brother and my cousin, and men in the community. And he was just in awe, like, wow, yes, you can use my barbershop. He was just like giving me all the motivation and like, yes, let's do it. And So I was like, yeah, because I feel like barbershops is where men, they
Yeah.
come, they talk, they chill out here, they come to watch the fights, they come to watch basketball games, the championships. I was like, this would be a great setting to have it in a barbershop.
Yes.
And I just know that it'd have been comfortable for them to come near and speak. So I was like, yeah, I think I want to have it in a barbershop.
Yeah, something about a barbershop brings so much comfort, fellas. What is it about a barbershop that makes men just let it all out and just be themselves?
For me, I think that and for men in a barbershop, it's men, so you don't have to worry about the being politically correct or saying something that may offend women or you may have an unpopular opinion. I think that barbershops is just has been a forever. It's been a place where men can just come to and just get it off.
Yeah. So, Capita, right?
Cop. Capita.
Cop. Sorry,
Capita.
Cop. C-O-P. Cop. Capita. So tell me about, have you ever, before going to these kickbacks, what was your mental health routine like? Did you go to a therapist? Were you just talking with friends? Do you even think about mental health? What was your relationship with mental health?
So for me, my relationship with mental health is like many didn't start off in the right space and place where initially I would talk to people, friends, a lot of time bad friends who had bad advice and and they
That barbershop talk,
yeah,
I'm
that's
telling you.
right, yep. And I never seeked a therapist or a counselor, and but I would as I grew, I found healthy ways to unpack and deal with my mental challenges, like meditating, stretching, and even speaking to people, elders who had some wisdom and insight on some of the things that I was going through. So that was really big for me, and it helped me to get through some really challenging times.
What is your take on therapists, Trey? What do you think about therapists going to therapy?
I myself haven't met a therapist that I've clicked with per se. I realized in that journey, it's like a relationship, So
Yeah.
that's one aspect of it. But for most of the people that I do know who are on their mental health journey, they all speak highly of, the things they learn in therapy, the release they get in therapy, the the growth they experience from practicing.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to finding my right
Therapist.
yeah.
So that's something that you would consider.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's an active search.
Yeah. And Brian, are you seeing that a lot more men are or going to therapy or looking for therapists?
Yeah, and I think one of the barriers to that is for example, he and I would probably relate. We would have similar life experiences. So and like he said accurately, therapy is about building a therapeutic trust, right? And that sometimes happens. It takes weeks for that to happen.
Yeah.
So I would like to encourage you to just give your therapist 4 to 5 weeks before you make a decision, saying, you know what, this isn't working, because you really have to have a mutual trust before the therapeutic relationship can be successful.
Yeah, because a lot of times we're like, I'm not telling you my business because I don't know you, right?
Right.
I'm not letting you in my house, right? And when you get into someone's mind, right, that's the most vulnerable place you can go. So I can understand how that would be a transition, right? And forming that trust. But for the therapeutic kickbacks, how long have you been attending? I know she's been doing this for 3 years. How long have you been going to the kickbacks, Trey?
3 years.
3 years. Oh, you've been there from the beginning. Oh, what made you want to go to these?
I also felt there's a need in the community. I like to participate in anything in the community that's positive, any chance I get. And also, it was another opportunity for me to, have that as well, So even though it was initially for incarcerated people, I myself haven't been incarcerated, but, family members of mine have. So I just showed up.
Yeah. And okay, so tell us about your experience. What made you keep coming back?
Just everything, the energy, the intention, the responses, just the fact that even though, like Rochester is a kind of a small community, right?
Yeah.
So most of the people, most times, anybody that comes, they're going to see somebody that they're familiar with in one or two spaces, right?
Yes.
And in this space, because we're in the barbershop, we're vulnerable. Like when you're getting your hair cut or done, like you're in a very vulnerable situation to begin with, right? So that's why I think that's part of what feeds into the openness at the barbershop situation.
Yeah.
But with that, you experience people one way in a different light.
Yeah.
Which comes back to what he said about, I'm not the only one going through this and all of that. So
Yeah. And Kapita, how long have you been going to these kickbacks?
This year, since beginning of the year.
Really? Okay. So what drew you in?
So I have been connected with Alexis since it was an idea, and I've been planning on coming for some time, and life and things have I haven't been able to make it until this year, but it's everything that my life is about, connecting with men and just personal development. So everything that's going on at the kickbacks and I see it online. It's just been something that has been very attractive for me, and it's everyone who goes there. I know all of these people, so it's just very welcoming.
Yeah. So how do you, in this space like this, how do you become vulnerable enough to share what you're going through? Because I attended yesterday, and these men are revealing things that they normally wouldn't, right? Not when I'm trying to date.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even reveal how many kids they have in the first date, but these men are opening up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you get like that in that space?
I think it's like Bryant mentioned earlier, the comfortability with through time. So in the barbershop, it's the same thing. You come to the barbershop, for years, and everybody in the barbershop is always coming to the barbershop on Saturdays or whatever day they're coming to the barbershop, and they get comfortable with expressing themselves. And because it's so many men who are, ideally dealing with the same situation where in the world they have to suppress that, expression of sadness, anger, frustration, confusion. They have to suppress that in the world, and they have to show up as this man, strong, don't cry, all of these things in the world. And when they get in an environment where it's so many men who shares the same story, it allows you to be like, what, I'm comfortable, I can express myself here. And I think that's what Alexis has created with the therapeutic kickbacks. And it's been amazing. We have so many just heartfelt experiences in there, and I just look forward to so much more.
Oh, and I just got an email. We received an email from a listener. Her name is I believe her or him, Alex. And Alex said, the finer point that I don't often hear in discussions about men's mental health is how and where it's practiced. Guys have the group chat, but doing intro sessions with 4 therapists is too much. Men are more emotionally present now than in previous generations. And how can we bring back the church basement men's group of yesteryear? Ooh, men, I'm going to say that I love this line right here, Alex. Men are more emotionally present now than in previous generations.
That's for
We
sure.
have some generations in the room. Don't want to age you, Brian. But are you seeing this? Are now that you're being older
Yeah.
than us in here, not older, are men now more emotionally present?
Yeah, and just to kind of drill down on that, I think the newer generations, so we're talking the 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and a lot of that has come from their parents providing that type of support. or at an early on age, and looking for, a lot of individuals have, behavioral issues, in kindergarten, first, second grade. And that's where they start, trying to get help for their children. And so these individuals have already had an experience. And so they then reflect back on that, when they're 19, 20, 21, saying, you know what, let me look at this again.
Yes.
And I'm talking, men as well,
Yeah.
for sure.
And at the kickback, your topic yesterday, right, was fatherhood, right?
Yep, was fatherhood, the joys of fatherhood.
Ooh, the joys of fatherhood. And
The
what
joys
made
of-
you want to speak on fatherhood? And how do you choose what you want to discuss?
So first off, it's Men's Mental Health Month.
Yes.
It was Father's Day in this month.
Yes.
And I just feel like Father's Day is kind of swept under the rug. It's not given enough celebratory attention. I feel like Mother's Day takes priority, and I don't think that's fair. I didn't think that was fair, so I was like, you know what, this kickback for the month of June, I want to celebrate fathers. I want to celebrate the joys of being a father. I want to make it special. I want to make it exciting and, make it a happy time.
Yes.
I go about choosing the topics. I meditate and I pray, and I wait to see what is going to be placed on my heart for the topic of each month.
Yeah. And I found it fascinating that one of the questions that you asked the men was what are some curses, generational curses you're trying to break?
Yeah,
or you're
you want to
breaking?
break with your children.
You want to break with your children. And that goes to here saying like men now are more emotionally available, right? And a lot of men in the group said, I want to make my son more emotionally intelligent, right? And Kapita, what does that mean for you? You brought your son here with you. What are some generational curses that you're trying to break with your son?
There's many generational curses that we're breaking, but one of them that I experienced and I touched a little bit on last night was abuse. So violence in the families. It's in the Black community has become extremely normalized to discipline our children with violence, and is really unacceptable. A lot of times we do this as a result of us being pressured with work and family relationships and life in general, and our children just are they're taking on and they're having to receive that as a result of that misplaced frustration, and yeah, it's a cycle, a vicious cycle that has been passed down since slavery. Honestly, just the idea of hurting someone because they've done something that you didn't want them to do, or they made you mad, or they embarrassed you, and it's really unacceptable. So with my children, I don't hit my children, and I try my hardest not to yell at my children. If ever I raise my voice at my children, I apologize to them and talk about it, and let them know that if I done something wrong, that it was wrong.
So Brian, I want to talk to you about this. Is it safe to say that some of the mental health issues that people suffer with or are challenged with stems from growing up and
Yes.
the traumas they faced growing up?
I mean, and not to age myself, but when I was growing up, it was, children be seen and not heard. My grandmother would say, go break me off a switch, and if you come back with the wrong one, she's going to choose the switch. So, and then, as we have evolved over the generations, we it's no longer acceptable, right? We get CPS involved, it's no longer acceptable to render physical punishment, and then I think when we look at the technology world, right, I believe that, a lot of these children are spending abnormal hours on their tablets, on their phones, and they're not outside playing. They're not outside getting scrapes and bumps and bruises and learning how to deal with conflict, And so now they're level of dysfunction, right, or is lowered. Their tolerance is lowered, right? So they can't handle, stresses that you or I could handle.
Yes.
Right. So, what happens? They then start, to decompensate and become hopeless and helpless and things of that nature. And so, these parents are reaching out now more than ever because I can't beat my child, so I need to get them help or take the proper channels to get them help.
Yeah. Is there any benefits to being a disciplinarian though?
Well, discipline doesn't have to come in the form of physical abuse, right?
Absolutely.
One form is to take that tablet away, suspend that use, right? Some I hear parents say they'll make them stand in the corner. So there's, I think the most important thing about discipline is whatever punishment you set, you need to see it all the way through, right? There's no, if you're losing your tablet for a week, then it's a week. You're not getting it back for a week. Sometimes barter and trade can come in. Like I had a family tell me yesterday that they set up a reward system. If you come home, you do your chores, you do your homework, you can have your tablet back. You can use it for up to 2 hours. But diverging a little bit, the tablets are really a big problem and for children, and it's really akin to a gambling addiction, in my mind. So I think parents need to be more vigilant with kind of monitoring what these kids are consuming on social media, on YouTube, and even some of the games they play, are a little, you need to check and see what they're doing.
Okay, I want to talk about social media and mental health, but we'll take a quick break. If you want to join in our conversation, you can call 1-844-295-TALK. That's 1-844-295-8255. Or our local number is 263-9994, or you can email connections@wxxi.org, or you can leave a comment in our YouTube stream. We'll have more connections when we get back, as June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month right here on WXXI.
Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from Bob Johnson Auto Group, proud supporter of Connections with Evan Dawson. Believing an informed public makes for a stronger community. BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com.
And we're back on Connections talking about men's mental health. And my guest in studio with me, Brian Burrows. He's a psychiatric nurse practitioner and the founder of Right Diagnosis Psychiatry. And I have Alexis Burgess. She's the owner and operator of One Love, One Way and the Therapeutic Kickback for Men. And in studio also, I have two men that attend her kickbacks. We have Wilbert Trey McCullough and Kapita.
That's right.
Shiamaru.
Shiamaru.
I'm gonna get it by the end of the show. I promise you. Shiamaru. Okay. We're talking about. We want to jump into social media and how it plays on mental health. Right? Have you ever discussed this at your kickback, Alexis?
No, but this is a good one. I am taking mental notes. That's a good one.
I want to be there for this one. So social media and mental health. For the gentlemen that attend these groups, right? And can we talk about how does social media affect your mental health at all?
For me, the social media has a great effect on my mental health.
Really?
And I think everyone's when sometimes I'm scrolling and I'll see something that's really positive. Alexa's daughter graduating or something, you know what I mean? And it's really heartwarming. And then, you read that and you hear that and you scroll down and then, it's bombs dropping in Iran. And then, and then the next thing you know, it's someone's birthday. And then the next thing you know, it's just like you're on this emotional roller coaster. And I think it's in regards to the dopamine release and, just like the mentally, it can be very exhausting. And So I really try not to, be, but it's so, habitual to just grab that phone. So I try to find other things that's more, positive, a lot of things that are going to be, more feeding mentally, because you can really find some really negative things on there that can bring you down. So
And Trey, how are you dealing with social media?
Yeah, so like you said, since college
Yeah.
and seeing all the changes and things,
Yeah.
one of my favorite updates was the unfollow option.
Where you can unfollow someone on social media.
Right.
Yes.
Because I'm a positive person.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to just unfriend you because the things I post are mostly positive, uplifting information, whatever. So I'm not going to deny that from someone. But if they're posting things that, like you said, are, fights, this, that, and the third, negative, every 3 posts is filled with, curses and things. I'm good on that. So I do a lot of unfollowing. So for me, I kind of curated my social media to be pretty positive.
Yeah.
But I do know that if I'm, either in a episode of depression or entering one, that I will spend more time than usual on social media. So even though it's not like I'm not negatively affected by it, I do see that there's a relationship. That's one relationship that I, pay attention to.
Yeah. And social media, Brian.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of your patients or your clients, is this a big thing that you hear your clients complain about
Yeah,
or
actually,
affected by?
Absolutely. I was speaking to a client yesterday, and it's inhibiting their sleep, right? Because they're up scrolling. Like, I'm not going to bed till like 5, and so then what happens? Now you're waking up at 2, and guess what? The day's over with, right? Also, when you're depressed, you're going to be in bed more. You're going to be social mediating more. So, I think, these social media platforms have an algorithm, right? So, this individual mentioned, when she sees something that she can relate to from a past post-traumatic stress episode, she gravitates towards that, right? And so now that's what your feed is going to start showing, negative things and things that kind of evoke these negative responses. So I had a conversation with her. I said, try to look at positive things on social media. Just like the gentleman said, you need to curate positive experiences, and then that will become your algorithm, so future focused, what do you want to accomplish?
Yeah.
Right. And then that will start feeding into your social media.
Wow. Yes, that's exactly right. And if you want to join in on the conversation for our listeners, you can call our toll-free 1-844-295-8255 or local number 585-263-9994. And we did get an email, and this person said, what is the socially acceptable way for a man to express overwhelming anger or frustration in public? Yeah, I got you with this one. The in public, you were ready to answer, and the in public kind of threw you out. In public, what is the socially acceptable way for a man to express anger or frustration in public? And that's open to anyone
I
who
feel
likes to
like
take
as long as you don't get physical, there is no socially acceptable way to express any type of anger, right? Anytime anybody is angry in public, everybody's looking at them, right?
Yep.
So I feel like as long as you don't get physical, unwarranted, that's just my opinion.
So just walk away. Just not even.
I mean, if that situation is taking that person to a physical space, then they might want to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
But if, they just need to yell and scream at somebody, I mean.
So I'm going to say is to remain calm and not act on impulse, right? Because impulse is a rash decision made without thinking. So to become argumentative and overly loud, when you're yelling at someone, they're not going to respond. They're going to respond aggressively back, and then things tend to escalate. So I think, the main thing to do is just kind of diffuse the situation, right? For that moment at least, and then go back and think about, what you want to do, how you want to address this, whether it's, file a complaint or something of that nature. but just not to kind of be driven by impulse, I would say would be the socially acceptable way.
Capita?
Yeah. I think these guys got great responses. And I'm right there with them. I think that expressing anger is not gonna really get one to a good place. I think it's more beneficial to just articulate what you're feeling or experiencing mentally, and just be aware that fire begets more fire, and if you don't have a desire to have a negative outcome in a situation, just be intentional about how you showing up in a situation, and just how you're expressing yourself in regards to what you like or dislike. And I think just what most people is just a lack of or a misunderstanding as a result, because most people are trying to be understood and they're not trying to understand. And if we are all just having that prerequisite before going out into the world, before being brought to challenging situations, I think that we'd all be able to effectively find solutions. Mm-hmm.
See, all these men in here are level-headed. I wanted to hear something like, just run up. No, but Alexis, as a female, right? If you're with a man and he's starting to get angry in public, what are some steps you would take to?
One, I would try my hardest not to antagonize him. Mm-hmm. I would try to remain calm within myself and try to get us to a place where we are isolated from a crowd or any other spectators. That would probably be my first couple of steps.
Okay. All right. And do we have a caller on the line? Okay. All right. And so I want to talk about COVID, right? And how COVID kind of exacerbated this whole mental health, issues. The COVID-19 pandemic, the exacerbated crisis of men's mental health. Studies found that during the pandemic, U.S. men reported slightly lower rates of anxiety than women, but had higher rates of depressive symptoms and suicidal ideation than their female counterparts. More than 60% of men who died by suicide had accessed mental health care services within the previous year. Now, COVID-19 isolation, it magnified the mental health crisis.
Absolutely. Being isolated, being confined with someone that you have frequent arguments with.
Yeah.
Alcohol is a big factor, right? Alcohol is a depressant. So you're confined, you're drinking, you're in bed more, you're depressed.
Yeah.
And then this went on for 2 years.
Yeah.
So COVID has impacted everyone's mental health, but men in particular. Men are providers. Men need to, they need to be out there making it happen. So, and when they can't, there was a lot of job loss during this period. So men are frustrated. So all those factors play into kind of this big picture of compromised mental health.
And Capita, I know you. What was COVID, the pandemic, like for you, and did it magnify anything that you were dealing with that you wasn't aware of?
So for me, not so much being a business owner. I just had to just continue to show up and go out and be in the world still, and and deal with the changes. So it didn't have so much of an effect on me, but I saw the effect it had on society, and just hearing about this topic with COVID, it just makes me think about brothers who are or were incarcerated, because they are isolated. They're secluded. They're around people who are, violent and agitated, who are also isolated and secluded. So, so specifically black men who are in the company or have been one who has been incarcerated, and coming out into the world, it gives people an understanding. COVID, and COVID is something that lets people see what incarcerated individuals had dealt with for so long, and this is the this is the product of
Wow.
recidivism, and because these guys are dealing with so much for so long, and they come back into the world, and what they're dealing with in the world is so different. The mental health that goes on in the prison institutions is reflected in the world, and I think that with COVID we're able to with just being quarantining for 2 weeks, you get to experience what someone who has been quarantining for 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really something to entertain in regards to why black men have so much mental health issues when I can't make an assumption, and I don't know the statistics, but I'm sure that 90% of black men either themselves or know someone closely who has been incarcerated, and yeah, it's tough.
That was one of the most powerful analogies I've heard ever. I've never thought about it that way. That was powerful. We do have a caller on the line. We have Chris. And Chris wants to talk about the understanding of the connection between violence on TV and behavior. Chris, am I correct? You can.
Yeah. I began to realize myself that a lot of TV shows that involve violent stuff, like that show Kevin Costner did called Yellowstone. The people out in wherever that was, Montana, I guess, he actually got criticism from the local people that the show was making Montana out to be a violent place. But I realized that in myself that there's a kind of a high to, you just get really sucked in, and you can kind of forget about your life and just there's like a power to violent stuff in TV series that is really unreal. But it's just so easy to be pulled in by it. And I know a lot of guys, I know it's not just me, a lot of guys get into that.
Yeah, so the connection between watching violence on TV and then reenacting that in real life.
It's more that it's an escapism, not so much that I'm gonna go out and shoot somebody like in the series, but it's an escapism from. I don't want to deal with the problems with my wife or the kids, or we all go through that. It's tough to handle that stuff sometimes. Yeah. So I escape into what I'm seeing is kind of like a drug of the high of violence in TV shows.
Yeah, and I know, Brian, you were. You know, you want to make a comment to where I haven't seen Yellowstone. I have to go check that out. I haven't seen that movie yet, Chris. I'm sorry, but I will go check it out. Brian, can you want to make a comment, react to this?
and just expand on that a little bit with the video games, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's an overall effect of desensitizing us to murder. You listen to rap songs. It's violent. It's cool to have a what's the new phrase? A switch.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about switches now. So I think it has an overall result of desensitizing us to murder, to crime.
Yeah, but I want to emphasize that I see it in myself as a way of escaping from learning how to deal with interpersonal stuff on a day-to-day level that we all need to learn how to deal with, and that we have very little training in dealing with. It's so easy to go off into kind of the pumped up high of watching, like the series Yellowstone or something.
So,
it's absolutely a dopamine release.
Is it?
For sure.
I don't know if any one of you had any comments on what Chris is saying.
Definitely. I think that and especially in amongst children, them being exposed to, death and violence so much in TV and media. It creates it creates a person that that really has a lack of compassion, a lack of understanding, a lack of emotional intelligence in the real world, and it just perpetuates mental health issues, violence, and a number of other things that really plague and poison our communities. So I really thank Chris for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Trey want to make a comment or
Yeah, I definitely
Alexis.
agree that with what Brian was saying about the desensitization aspect of it. That's also why I unfollowed a lot of things
Yeah.
on my social media. Like, I don't watch too much TV, but it's a bunch of violence, a lot of death. I felt that it was kind of being pumped on us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, gentlemen, and Alexis, one of the emails said, how can we bring back the church basement men's group of yesteryear? And Alexis, you're doing that with your therapeutic kickback, providing that safe space for men. Tell us again about your kickback. When are they? How people can reach you if they want to join?
So the therapeutic kickbacks are once a month. You can reach out to me on Facebook. My name is Alexis Burgess. Also on Instagram, it is One Love One Way. They are once a month, the last Wednesday of the month, typically. And if you would like to come, it's free to the community.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being
Thank
here.
you.
Brian Burrows, Kapita Shimmer.
all
We're
right.
going to get it. We're going to get it. And Trey McCullough, thank you guys for being guests on Connections. June,
Appreciate you.
Mental
Thank you.
Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Great discussion. Thank you.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.
Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from 2 Point Capital Management, an investment firm working with clients to create custom portfolios of stocks and bonds. 2 Point is dedicated to helping people manage financial risk in good times and bad. More at 2pointcapital.com.
When you become a sustaining member of WXXI, your monthly gift helps WXXI maintain the high standards it takes to serve this community. Please become a sustaining member today at WXXI.org.